Hey everybody, it's Steph from Destination Exploration here at the U of L, coming to you from the Outreach Facility in the Science Commons. Today we're going to do some fun activities together as part of Play Week 2021, because when life gives you lemons, why not do science? Today we're going to do 2 quick experiments using our lemons. The first is discovering secret messages by using invisible ink. And then we're going to turn our lemons into volcanoes. To give it a little bit of personality, why not give your lemon a face? Before we get started, we need to make sure that the space that we're in is okay to do some science. I recommend the kitchen counter because it's going to get a little bit messy. That's the best part. And if you're a little bit younger, please make sure you have an adult around to handle any of the sharp knives or the heating stuff we're going to do later on. Double check that you have all the materials nearby. You're going to need some lemons, a lemon juice is a great alternative, baking soda, Q-tips, paper, a knife to cut through the lemon, a spoon or popsicle sticks, something with a blunt end, a marker to give it some personality, food coloring if you have it, maybe even some dish soap, an iron or a heat source, and of course, containers to catch the lemon juice and a cloth to clean up any messes. So I have an iron as my heat source and I'll be using a sharp knife, both of which you'll need an adult to assist you with if you're one of our younger scientists. Let's get started with our experiments. The way it's going to work is we're going to start by creating our invisible ink and our secret messages. We'll let them dry while we turn our lemons into volcanoes, and then we'll bring them back to reveal those messages. Remember that if you're taking any pictures of all the cool stuff we're doing this week, you can share it online using the hashtag PlayWeek2021, and you can tag ULethBridge and ULethBridgeDE. That's us. So we're going to start with our invisible ink, and the main ingredient or chemical we're going to use is actually the lemon juice. So if you only have a few lemons, now's the time to use our lemon juice as that alternative. We won't need too much. We want to save our lemons for when we make them into volcanoes. If you've got a bunch of people working with you and multiple lemons, everybody can help out. If everybody grabs a lemon and squeezes it gently or rolls it on the table, rolling it in our hands, it actually loosens up some of that lemon juice before we cut it open. It means that we'll actually get more to use for our experiment. So you can keep doing that while I explain a little bit about why that lemon juice is so special. You also may start to notice that the room's starting to smell like lemons. That's because the rind of the lemon is porous, which means that there's little tiny holes that allows that scent to escape, and even some liquid. So it might feel like your lemon is starting to sweat. That scent may remind you if you've ever tried to taste a lemon. It's very sour. Makes your face pucker up. If something is sour, that's a great property that tells us it's an acid. Other acids you might find around the house are things like vinegar, pop, and sometimes some cleaning products. But definitely lemons or oranges, citric fruit. When we're talking about acids, we can't forget about the base. So acids and bases, when they're mixed together, are very common chemical reactions that we see all the time. A base is something like baking soda. Other examples of a base are harmful cleaning chemicals like ammonia, but also softer ones like soap. Okay, are your lemons nice and squishy? It's time to collect all of that lemon juice to use as our invisible ink. So cut your lemon in half and squeeze out all the juices into those containers. There we go. We've got some invisible ink. It doesn't look invisible yet, but when it dries, it will disappear. All right, quickly wipe the table, dry it off, and go grab your pieces of paper. With your paper, you're also gonna need that Q-tip. We're gonna use that as our writing utensil. So you can go ahead and write whatever you want on that piece of paper. It can be words, it can be a drawing. The thing that you need to make sure of is that you're using lots of lemon juice. Make sure that the paper is really wet. Go over it a couple of times. We want to make sure that all of that lemon juice gets absorbed and stays in the paper when it dries. Take as long as you need to create all of your amazing secret messages. But when you're finished, you can take those pieces of paper, move them off to the side to dry. We're going to keep our lemon juice. Don't throw it out. Give your workspace clean because it's time to turn our lemons into volcanoes. If you've ever made a volcano before, you know that we normally use vinegar and baking soda to create that chemical reaction that makes the bubbles. So we already have baking soda, that's great, but vinegar, we know that's an acid, and we know that our lemon juice is an acid, so do you think that we could use our lemon juice instead of vinegar? Let's find out. So like I mentioned before, we're gonna give our lemon volcanoes a little bit of personality. So you can go ahead and give your lemons some faces. Just be sure to draw them in the middle because we'll be cutting off the tops and bottoms. You'll also need to grab the rest of your materials. That's the baking soda, a spoon or popsicle stick, food coloring, and a bowler plate to minimize the mess. So now that all your lemons have great personalities, we're gonna prep them so that they're ready to become volcanoes. To do that, make sure that you've got a couple of bowls or plates to help minimize that mess. Then you can have an adult help you cut just a small slice off the bottom so that it can stand up straight. Cut a larger slice off the top so that we can see lots of the inside. You're gonna go ahead and do that for all of our lemons just like this. Our lemons are almost ready, but we've got one more step. Be very careful when you're doing this, and please make sure that you have an adult do it for you. We're gonna cut out little tiny scoops on the top of our lemon, kind of like a bowl. This bowl is gonna expose more of that liquid. Then our junior scientists can take either your spoon or your popsicle stick and actually just start gently smooshing down and releasing more of those juices and kind of filling it up like a cup or a bowl. And you're gonna do that for all of your lemons. If you spill any of the lemon juice inside the lemons, that's totally fine. Remember that invisible ink we had before? We can use this, and I'm just gonna top it up so all of our lemons are full. And remember that food coloring? We're gonna give our lemons a little bit more personality by adding some couple of drops of food coloring to the top of each of the lemons. If you want to, you can use that popsicle stick or spoon just to mix in all those colors. Just be careful with that when you're finished with it. We got one more thing to add. Remember that dish soap? So when baking soda and the lemon juice mix, we're gonna see some bubbles. And we know that when we wash our hands with dish soap, we get bubbles. Can we test out what happens if we put a little bit of dish soap in some of our lemons? Do you think it'll make a difference? Can we do an experiment within an experiment? So I'm gonna add it to 2 of our lemons. These 2 right here. For the final piece, you'll need your baking soda. So I've just put it into a small container so it's easier to handle. I'm using a half tablespoon or 7.5 milliliters. So if you have measuring spoons in your kitchen, or if you just want to use a regular spoon, I would recommend using a teaspoon rather than a full tablespoon. So all we're gonna do is take a spoonful of baking soda and plop it on the top of each lemon. The reaction's gonna happen quickly, so let's see what happens. Wow! Woo! Whoa! Boom! Look at that! Their brains are oozing with knowledge. As soon as we put that baking soda, the bubbles immediately show up, but they'll start to fizzle down. How can we make that reaction last longer? If you notice, we can still see a little bit of baking soda, that dry powder on top. If you take that popsicle stick or spoon and we mix the baking soda with the lemon juice and poke it down, we'll actually start to see the reaction happen again. So as long as there's dry baking soda, we can add more lemon juice to it and make the reaction happen again and again. This works the same way. If you put lemon juice on top, you should see the reaction still start to happen. So try and make your lemon volcanoes last as long as possible. When you're finished, put those off to the side, wipe down your workspace, and come on back because it's time to reveal our secret messages. Remember, if you want to share any of the cool colors of your exploding volcanoes, make sure to share them online with us by using the hashtag PlayWeek2021. Are we ready to reveal our secret messages? If so, that's going to require a heat source. So I'm using an iron, but you could use the stove, a flat iron, sometimes a hairdryer works as well. So I've got mine plugged in, which means it's very hot. Please make sure you've got an adult helping you if you're using something like this. We've got our pages here, and they're now blank. They should be completely dry. In order to reveal our messages, we actually have to add energy to our system to create a new chemical reaction. So before, we just let our lemon juice dry, which means that the paper has absorbed that lemon juice, that acid, so part of it will act like an acid and will respond to the heat that we're about to add. It's actually gonna break apart those molecules and create a carbon-based molecule, and then with the heat, it's going to oxidize. So if we think of copper, when it oxidizes, it actually turns green. So think of copper roofs, like the Parliament buildings. So with that color change, we know that a chemical reaction's happened. Now we're going to take our iron. Please make sure that you're being very careful with this and being cautious that we don't want to overheat our paper. We just want it so that the reaction happens. It may take a second, so give it some time, but please be safe while you're doing so. All we're going to do is we're just going to hold our iron over our piece of paper here, making sure that we add enough heat to that system. Let's see what's on our white piece of paper. It's a little hard to see, but it says, I love STEM. Did you know that STEM stands for science, technology, engineering, and math? So we just use science to say that I love science. Pfft, so cool. What about the yellow sheet? This one says, #PlayWeek2021. Remember, this is the hashtag that you can use to share all of the fun pictures to show us some of your cool messages that you made. Once you're finished revealing your messages, remember to always unplug your heat source. You'll notice that one piece of paper worked better. So if you wanted to do the experiment again, you could change up the piece of paper and see if you get a different result. Science never ends. So today we did a couple of experiments. We created some invisible ink using lemon juice, adding heat to the system later on to create an oxidizing reaction to reveal our messages. And of course, we can't forget our lemon volcanoes, where we mix the acid of the lemon juice and the base of the baking soda to create a reaction, releasing CO2, which is those bubbles that we saw. So we did a lot of chemistry today. I hope you had fun doing so. I know I did. You did such a great job that I now certify you a DE scientist, because you know that when life gives us lemons, we do science. So make sure that you check out the rest of the Play Week videos and content coming to you this week. Remember that if you want to share anything online with us, please make sure you use the Play Week 2021 hashtag so that we can see it. So I'm Steph from Destination Exploration, the Youth Science Outreach Program here at the U of L. Remember that if you want to continue exploring science and STEM at home, we've got lots of cool stuff with our At Home with DE series on our website, on social media at ULethbridgeDE, and even on YouTube. So make sure you go check them out. We're also doing lots of stuff throughout the year, so keep an eye out because we've got more stuff coming your way. So until we see you next time, have a great one.